Zapata, and I will be your moderator for today's office hours. We're going to hold for just a minute or two for more of our colleagues to join us for today's session. In the meantime, I want to invite you all to introduce yourselves in the chat with your name and the region you represent, and we will begin soon. For those of you who are just arriving, welcome to today's office hours. We're waiting another minute or so to let most of the folks get logged on. In the meantime, please introduce yourselves in the chat with your name and the region you represent. We will begin in 1 minute. Okay, I think we are ready to get started. Again, welcome to this week's office hours for ESG. My name is Anthony Zapata, and I am your moderator for today. If you're just joining us, please go to the chat and introduce yourself with your name and the region you represent. And as a reminder for everyone, the office hours session is being recorded for public record. Next slide, please. And here's how to ask a question. All questions must be submitted in the question box. Please don't put them in the chat. They tend to get lost there as we have a lot of things going on in the chat, and we will most likely miss your question. So when you enter them in the question box, please type your name and the question into the question box. The team will read the questions out loud at the end of the presentation, and we will provide answers throughout the presentation or out loud, time permitting. And alongside our presenter today, we also have HCD staff, representatives, and specialists who can help answer the questions during the Q&A sessions. If we cannot answer your question, we will either get back to you or recommend that you complete a HUD AAQ. So please put those questions in the Q&A box, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. Next slide, please. And as mentioned, please note that both the slides and the recording will be recorded and will be sent out to all participants within approximately 2 weeks of today's presentation. Next slide, please. So here's our agenda for today. Today's office hour session will include the following. We're going to do a brief welcome and introduction. Then we're going to provide some ESG updates in relation to the 2023 contracts. We're then going to dive deep into our Spotlight series, the 2024 ESG NOFA, the authorizing resolutions. We'll follow that up with a Q&A session. Next slide, please. And we want to briefly introduce our ESG team representatives, Sam Liu, Giovanni Martinez, and myself, Anthony Zapata. We are your representatives, and we work directly with grantees to administer the ESG program. If you have questions or need assistance with ESG, please reach out to one of the reps listed on this slide, or you can always send your question to the ESG NOFA inbox. The email address is listed on this slide at the very bottom. That email inbox is monitored Monday through Friday during normal business hours, so your email will reach one of us. Next slide, please. This slide shows the schedule of the upcoming office hours. So today we have the 2024 NOFA resolutions. Then on the 29th, 2 weeks from today, we will cover indirect costs, everyone's favorite topic. And then next Wednesday, a week from today, we're going to hold a special session of office hours from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. is going to be the 2024 NOFA webinar, a 2-hour webinar devoted to the 2024 NOFA. And we will cover that in great detail and answer the questions that you may have. We anticipate there will be quite a few. Regarding that NOFA webinar, as many of you are aware, we've been having issues with that Zoom link. The email that went out says you're required to register for that. However, you are not required to register in advance for that meeting. On the day of the meeting, at the time of the meeting, simply click on the meeting link, enter your name and email address, and you will be taken directly to the meeting. If you need the link to the meeting, I will drop that in the NOFA, in the chat during Tim's presentation, but you can also reach out to your reps or to the ESG NOFA inbox if you need that link. Next slide, please. Here is the schedule for the 2024 ESG NOFA. January 31st, the application portal opens. And just to backtrack a bit, the NOFA was released on December 31st, about 2 weeks ago. And we have this session today and a couple other sessions, but then on the 31st, the application portal opens. March 28th, applications are due in eCivis by 5 p.m. And we anticipate sometime around July 2025, we will have the award announcements. Next slide, please. Okay, now it's time for the updates, and we are going to be covering the 2023 ESG grants. And for many of you, your standard agreements were just approved around December, maybe November, but just December and early January. And so we want to talk about performance milestones. We're going to bring this to your attention. It's a reminder for our current grantees that your contract this year has performance milestone dates and requirements. And as you can see on the slide, the first one that's coming up is 20% of your ESG award must be expended within 120 days of the execution date listed on your standard agreement with HCD. So for most of you, that is approximately 4 months after your contract execution date, which should be sometime in December or early January as the execution date. The next milestone is 50% of your ESG award must be expended within 180 days of the execution date listed on your standard agreement. That translates to approximately 6 months after your contract execution date. We will be providing reminders to our ESG grantees on a regular basis of these performance milestones, both in our office hour sessions and with email reminders from your grant representatives. Please reach out to us if you need assistance or you're having an issue getting the dollars expended in your communities. And on that subject of expenditures, we're now going to talk about RFFs. You can now submit your 2023 RFFs for reimbursement if you have a standard agreement in place. However, if your contract is for rapid rehousing or emergency shelter funding, you must have approved written policies and procedures in place. And if you're unsure if this has been completed for your agencies, please reach out to your grant representative or the ESG NOFA inbox. And tying directly into the expenditure deadlines, we recommend grantees submit RFFs on a monthly basis. This will expedite the RFF review and processing and generally will result in a faster reimbursement as opposed to submitting multiple RFFs all at the same time. As per your standard agreement, at minimum, you must submit RFFs on at least a quarterly basis. Next slide, please. So continuing the updates for the 2023 contract. Many of you have had staffing changes since you filled out the application for the 2023 funding. For example, your authorized signer may have changed. If this is the case, a new authorized signature form is required in order for your RFF to be processed. You can reach out to your rep for assistance in getting this form completed, and also the NOFA inbox. If you need to make changes to your program budget and goals in eCivis, please reach out to your representative. Your ESG representative can assist you in amending the goals and budget in eCivis. And finally, You can expect to receive an introductory email from your grant representative to go over your contract performance milestones and due dates, as well as to address any questions or concerns that you may have with your ESG funding. We are all looking forward to meeting with you on Teams and to go over your contract and identify any ways that we can help you deploy the money in your community. Next slide, please. So here we want to pause and acknowledge the terrible destruction caused by the wildfires in the Los Angeles region. To those grantees affected by the fires, we extend our deepest sympathies. And the ESG team and the HCD leadership team are here to support affected applicants and regions. Please stay in touch and let us know how we can support your local efforts. That can be financial changes such as budget revisions, amendments, requests for reimbursements. We will work with you. Reach out at your earliest convenience and we will provide assistance.
Anthony, on that note, I'd just like to add, because we had one question from Micah in LA, that will there be a discussion regarding ESG rush today? And the answer is not yet. We will discuss this very soon, but we are waiting for guidance from HUD and leadership on this before we discuss it. So hang tight, and we hope to talk about this very soon.
Thank you, Amanda. And as you can see on the last bullet of the slide, HCD leadership is actively involved in creating solutions for those grantees affected. And you can expect a response from our leadership sometime within the next week or so, I'm sure. Next slide, please. So let's turn our attention to today's Spotlight series. For those of you who may have missed the November and December office hour meetings, the ESG program has moved from state ESG guidelines to, from state ESG regulations to state ESG guidelines as of the 2024 NOFA. The guidelines have now replaced the former state ESG regulations. And as a result of these changes, the ESG program is moving from annual NOFAs to 3-year NOFAs, which many of you may have noticed in your review of our current NOFA. In addition, ESG is moving from annual contracts to multi-year or 3-year contracts. If you would like more information, please refer to the 2024 NOFA or reach out to your grant representative. We will be discussing this in much greater detail next week at the NOFA webinar. Next slide, please. So let's pause here and address any questions you may have regarding the update slides. And while we're doing that, I'm going to mute my notifications so you don't keep hearing that plinging sound. Amanda, do we have any questions at this point?
Yes, we have one from April, and the question is, what is the date when the reporting for system performance measures will open? And we are not sure which performance measures, what she's talking about, whether it's the APR or HDIS. So April, if you could unmute yourself and kind of clarify your question, that would be helpful if you can. If you're not comfortable doing that, if you would like to send us an email through the NOFA inbox, that would be great too. Okay. Feel free to email us, like I said, through the ESG NOFA inbox, April. And the next question, do we need policies and procedures approved every year, or if once approved, are we good? And Tuesday would like to answer that, so I'm going to pass that off to her.
All right, thank you. Hi, Nicole. No, if you have approved policies and procedures, and we only need policies and procedures approved for homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing. The others just need to be submitted to us, and we do review them, but we don't actually approve them. We will be sending out a letter telling you that you have an approved policies and procedures for rapid rehousing and for homelessness prevention. And in the future, you'll be resubmitting your policies and procedures and that approval letter at the same time. But you won't have to get them reapproved unless any significant changes happen. Thank you.
Okay. And then the next question, can I please have the information for next week's 2024 NOFA webinar? Again, if you could please email the NOFA, ESG NOFA inbox, or if one of the reps could put the Zoom link for next week's webinar also in the chat, that would be great.
I just did, but it looks like it is not. We were having that same issue that we had with the hyperlink working. So please reach out to your rep directly
Okay.
or to the NOFA inbox, and we will share that link with you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
The next question from Micah, with the de minimis percentage increasing to 15%, is HCD exploring increased admin percentage allowed? So the admin percentage is not increasing, but with the 2024 applications, we are increasing to the 15%. So you will be allowed to get your admin, or your sub-recipients will be allowed to get their admin through that increased de minimis, if that makes sense. And then April responded back with SPM, and I'm still not sure what that means. If anyone else understands, please chime in. I don't know if that's an acronym, April. Again, if you can unmute yourself, that would be great. Or if Chelsea, you can unmute April.
Okay, I'm going to do that now. Okay.
April, are you able to speak? Okay. Service performance measures, Felipe just answered. So we're gonna have to get back to you on that
Yeah, I
because
think
I'm
that
not
might be related to HMIS.
okay.
They're reporting in HMIS, which I don't think that has more to do with HUD than us.
Yeah. So April, please feel free to email us through the ESG NOFA inbox, and we will do some more research for you on that and get back to you. There is a question in the chat. Again, please put these questions in the Q&A box so we make sure that we see them. Denise asked, our ESG/COC written standards will be in draft form in March at time of NOFA due date, with changes related to Inspire still in review COC board. Can we submit the draft standards in eCivis in March 2025? I believe that's okay. If anyone else wants to chime in and say otherwise.
Hi, this is Tuesday. Yes, it'll be
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will review them, or we will review them and get back to you with any questions that we have. So yes.
Thank you, Tuesday. And Felicity said it looks like your question, April, might be a COC question.
Yeah.
So you might want to reach out to your COC, or again, if you want to reach out to us, we can do some more research for you and reach out to the COC also. But either way. Okay, Anthony, you can take it back. There's no more questions. Oh, never mind. I take that
Oh,
back.
all right.
Sorry. Hello, for the 2024 application, will a draft authorized resolution be accepted?
Do
So
we
the
want to cover
answer,
that in the presentation, or sure we do it right now?
I'll answer it quickly now. The short answer is no. It will not be accepted. It is fairly clear in the, it's not fairly clear. It is clear in the NOFA that we are not accepting drafts anymore. I know that was accepted in the past, but it is not acceptable from this point forward. It has caused too many issues in getting standard agreements executed in a short time frame, so that will not be acceptable going forward. Second, do we need to submit a 1-year and 3-year resolution with the application? And the answer to that question is also no. Your COC or your organization will choose to submit the 1-year or the 3-year resolution, depending on whichever one is acceptable for your board. So if we would prefer the 3-year resolution, that would be easier in the long run for both your organization and for HCD. But we know and realize some boards will not be able to do the 3-year resolution. So that's why we made the 1-year resolution available. Okay, and that is it for now, Anthony.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you everyone for these great questions. And Tim will be providing some more clarity on that as in just a few moments. So if you could go to the next slide. So today's office hours, we're covering the 2023 ESG NOFA authorizing resolutions template. But first, I want to give you a little context for today's office hours. The 2024 NOFA was released on December 31st, 2024, a little over 2 weeks ago. I mentioned in the previous slide that we're going to have a 2-hour webinar devoted entirely to covering the 2024 NOFA in great detail next week. We're going to answer questions that are both general and specific to your agency. So you might be asking yourself, why a week before this NOFA webinar are we dedicating an entire office hour session to go over the authorizing resolution, which is just one specific portion of the overall NOFA application? Well, as you might have guessed, because the authorizing resolution is a very important and integral part of the application process. Each NOFA year, each year that we release a NOFA, especially the past 3 years, the authorizing resolution has proved to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue that causes delays in both the acceptance of your NOFA application and much more so in the awarding and completion of your standard agreement. The standard issues that we run into on the resolutions are usually the same each year. So this year, we intend to get ahead of this issue by providing very clear guidance and directions to our applicants and grantees. Our goal today is to provide you with detailed guidance and instruction on how to create a rock-solid authorizing resolution. And with that, I will turn it over to ESG Program Manager, Timothy Coop-Whitley, who will be leading today's discussion on the 2024 authorizing resolutions. Take it away, Tim.
Thank you, Anthony, and good morning to everybody joining our webinar this morning. So nice to have you here. Next slide, please. Oh, it's already there. Thank you. So I'd like to start this this review with just an overview of the authorizing resolution. I know many of us here have done this many times and we're used to it. And so this is just an overview so everybody understands, what HCD is looking for and what you can do ahead of time to start this process. So just a quick overview of this process. The authorizing resolution designates a person or persons responsible for and are authorized to execute and deliver all the documents related to the application of ESG funds, and if awarded, the execution of a standard agreement with the department. So in a nutshell, the resolution serves as that foundational document for both the ESG application and the standard agreement. So next slide. And as you see on the slide here, you may visit the ESG website webpage now, actually, because as you see on the screen, these are links on our ESG website that contain both our 2024 NOFA, and right directly below it, you'll see both resolution templates that are live on our website now. So you can also find instructions and guidance on how to complete the resolution. So if you still have additional questions, once you open those templates, there are instructions on that document. So again, this is a screenshot of the ESG webpage. So if you visit our page just scroll down and you'll find an icon that says a notice of funding or apply for funding, and you can click on that, and then this little drop-down menu will appear with our NOFA document as well as the resolution templates. And if someone would like to drop a link in the chat, so the folks here on the webinar have that, we will drop a link in the chat for this website.
Got it, Tim.
Perfect, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, I'm continuing our overview. So all applicants are required to use the HCD approved authorizing resolution template when submitting their 2024 application. So failure to do so may delay the award and may result in disqualification of the application. So this is an important piece that is a requirement as listed in the NOFA. And the resolution must also be on your agency letterhead, as many of us already know. So just an important note, please ensure that the naming conventions in your resolution are consistent with your other agency documents, such as your TIN, your STD 204, those documents that are submitted with the application. Make sure that the naming convention does match all across the way. So, for example, if the name in your resolution is the County of Sacramento, let's then make sure it's not listed as Sacramento County in eCivis or your bylaws, other documents that your agency has. And so if this happens, that's something that will cause a delay in reviewing your application and also by HCD legal or contracts. So if that's the case for you, I mean, if you have an interchangeable county of, or if you have your city in front of a county, just make sure that everything matches. And so please ensure that does happen. Okay, next slide, please. So the most common question that we receive each year regarding the authorized resolution is, our governing board requires us to submit a resolution that conforms to our local standards. What do we do? So I know many of us here have had that question. So in this case, for your agency, you can submit 2 resolutions with your application. So that is allowed. One that meets the requirements of your local governing body and also the HCD approved resolution template. So please note that you cannot just submit one that meets your local, but you must submit the HCD approved resolution template for sure. And then if you want to submit a secondary one that meets those requirements, that is completely okay. So, but please understand that the HCD one is required upfront. So we also encourage our applicants to submit a 3-year resolution. As Anthony mentioned earlier, we do encourage that. This will speed up the processing time for the annual amendments to that 3-year contract that we are introducing this year. So however, we understand that not everybody here is going to be allowed to do that. It may not be possible for your agency. So if that's the case, not to worry, you can still submit that 1-year resolution with the application. So, but we are offering both this year with this open NOFA. And so please know that you do have that option. And so please explore the option for the 3-year with your agency. And if it's possible, we definitely do encourage that. And so, so this is kind of the basic overview of the resolution. So the rest of the presentation is going to go over specific sections. So before we do so, I just want to check in to see if we have any questions in the Q&A. Amanda?
We have one question from Ben. Would HCD require a specific format for a designee letter or provide a template? And I believe the answer is no. We do not have a specific format or provide a template, but Felicity or Chelsea or Tim, chime in if I'm incorrect on that answer.
That sounds correct, that we do not have a template for the designee letter.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge either, Amanda.
Okay. Okay. And then another question just came in. Our resolutions are on a county template that includes our county seal. Is that sufficient letterhead, or does it need to be on our HHSA letterhead, as HHSA will be submitting the application? I believe the county seal is fine.
I would agree with Amanda with that. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah.
And that's it for now, Tim.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. All right, next slide, please. All right, so now we're going to dive into the template for the resolution. And again, these are on our website, so you can download them at any time after this webinar, after these office hours, and take a look for yourself and start looking at the information. So, so we're going to go in section by section, and for your reference, again, the instructions are provided in the presentation, but they're also on the template forms as well. So up first, we're going to look at that resolution number and the title, as you see on the screen here. So the resolution number should be filled in by your governing board clerk or agency secretary. So, and again, for this NOFA, the funding year is going to be 2024 to 2025, okay? And just as another reminder, please do not add or delete any language from the title. There's in the templates located on the site, there are specific lines where your agency fills in the information such as numbers and years. And so that is the only things that you'll be filling in. So please do not add or delete any language. Okay, next slide. And so in our next section, sample language we did provide here. So you can use this as applicable for your agency or your local government. So the resolution may read a necessary quorum of the supervisors or of California County hereby contest to adopt and ratify the following resolution. So that's just an example of what it could read. So please check with your ESG HCD rep, or you can email the ESG NOFA inbox if you have questions about this. Don't feel like you have to know what it is right now. If there's further questions, we're happy to help here. So as mentioned before, if your local governing body requires different language, that's fine. We understand that. And you can submit 2 resolutions to satisfy that requirement. So just please understand that you can do that if that is required. Next slide, please. All right, so now to the section where it talks about the NOFA date. So the correct date that the NOFA itself was issued by HCD is required, and so do not use any other dates such as an email listserv announcements, any memos, anything that you've received about this NOFA announcement. And so on the screen here, so the NOFA date is going to be December 31st, 2024, and that date should also be listed in our NOFA on our website. So, so that is the date for the NOFA release date. Next slide. And it's also recommended that you list an approved dollar amount that is at least 150% of the amount you expect to receive based on the ESG program NOFA's published allocation. And this recommendation should cover the estimated NOFA funding amount for the current annual funding cycle year of the 3-year NOFA cycle. So, however, if your local standards require you to list the exact amount identified in the NOFA, please enter that amount. So please refer to your local standards requirement for that. So the reason we recommend listing the higher amount than the NOFA is award amounts are frequently recalculated sometimes and are subject to change. So if the amount your entity is eligible to receive increases above the dollar amount your entity authorizes, a new resolution will be required to receive the new higher amount. So articulating a higher dollar amount in this resolution will definitely help and reduce the chances that you need to have an entirely new resolution. So this is an important piece for everybody here. So just make sure that, that our recommendation is listed here, and we highly encourage that. However, please refer to your local requirements. We understand that, but we want to minimize the effort and the time needed to do any kind of amended resolution. We understand that takes time, sometimes very prolonged amount of times, and so we definitely want to avoid that. So that's why we're doing this today. As Anthony mentioned, we're trying to get the process explained right now, and so you can start that process as early as you want now, because we understand meeting with your boards can take time, and we want you to submit the correct one right off the bat. So next slide, please. Okay, so section 2 of the template. So this part of the resolution lists the amount of funding that you are willing to take if there are additional funds available for allocation after the application deadline. So just a note, this is not to be confused with section 1. And so please make sure that you read through the language here, just so there's an understanding. If there's questions on this language in section 2, the ESG team is definitely here to help answer those questions. So it is recommended that you list an approved dollar amount that is at least 25% of the amount you expect to receive based on the ESG program NOFA's published allocation for the first, second, or third annual funding cycle. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, so this is if there are any additional available allocations, this is what this section is talking about, not about section 1. So please do anything 25% above the amount. So in the event that does happen, we will have that section correct as well. So anybody here that will be doing the 3-year resolution, it is recommended that you list an approved dollar amount that is at least 25% of the amount that you expect to receive based on the ESG program NOFA's published allocation for years 1 through 3. And again, if you are curious or if you don't know what the allocation is for your area, please refer to the NOFA that is posted on our website and go all the way to the end at Appendix A, and you will see tables of the allocations there. So you can visit that anytime on the NOFA. Okay, next slide. All right, section 3. So for this section, here it is. You will enter the current annual funding cycle year of the 3-year NOFA cycle. So in this case, as mentioned earlier, the funding cycle is going to be 2024 to 2025. And so in the line there, as on the screen, those are the years that you will enter. Next slide. Section 6. Okay. Here, you will enter the title of the authorized representative or designee, as it shows on the screen. So if you are listing 2 or more authorized representatives, make sure to use or rather than and. And so there is a specific reason that we do that. So there's an example here that we've seen before. The applicant hereby authorizes and directs the chief executive officer or the chief financial officer to execute, et cetera, et cetera. So if that happens, and if that is listed on your resolution, if you use and, it will require both of those staff persons to sign and execute. Okay, so that's why the language is super important, that we recommend using or, because if you use and, it will require both of them. Okay, so just understand that word choice in there is very specific, and so if you don't intend for 2 people to sign, make sure that you use our recommendation here. Okay, next slide. Okay, for section 7, this is where you enter the title of the authorized representative or their designee. So, so if you are a local government such as a city, there is a California code that does require the mayor or mayor pro temp to sign all HCD documents. So unless there is a city ordinance stating otherwise, the mayor must be the authorized official in this section. So this does apply for cities in the state. If the designee is signing any application, agreement, or any other document on behalf of the designated official of a city or county, written proof of designee authority to sign on behalf of such designated official must be included with the resolution. Otherwise, the resolution will be deemed deficient and may be rejected. So please keep that in mind when you're preparing these documents to be submitted with the application this year. And so if that is something that you guys want to include, just make sure that the requirements are fulfilled there. Next slide. Okay, is moving on to section 8. So we do have some guidance as provided in section 6. So multiple signers may be included with appropriate language to indicate whether all or one of the individuals being authorized must sign. So the word and should be used where you intend to require all of the listed individuals sign the documents, and the word or should be listed where you intend for any one of the individuals listed to be able to sign the documents. And so the use of and or in this context is legally insufficient and therefore is not acceptable. So please make sure that you don't use both. You pick one or the other. So regarding the signatory, it is recommended that cities, counties, and JPAs list the signatory's title only to reduce the need for a new resolution in the event of employment turnover. So this point, I just want to point out right here real quick, is super important. This is the most common issue that we have with resolutions that are submitted to HCD. So I highly encourage everyone here, if you're required to list a staff person's name, which many of us, there may be some requirements for you to do that. We definitely understand that. We're not asking you to bend those requirements. However, if that staff person is going to retire this year, if that staff person is maybe they're going to be maybe they're going to quit in a month. You know, with different scenarios, different circumstances come up. We definitely understand that. Just understand that if you do list a person's name and they, let's just say 2, 3 months, 2, 3, 4 months down the road into 2025, when we're reviewing those applications, if that person is no longer there, then guess what? You have to get a new resolution. So, and that just create, like I said before, that just creates more time on your end to get that amended resolution, and so that's just more work for you. And so just understand, from doing it correctly and doing it the suggested way, our recommendations, our suggestions, that's why we're here today, is just to give those suggestions. And so there's less extra administrative work on your end to complete this. And so we want to give as less work as possible. So, and in addition, as in section 6, if the designee is signing any application or agreement or any other document on behalf of the designated official of the city or county, written proof of designee authority to sign on behalf of the official must be included with the resolution. So otherwise the resolution will be deemed deficient and may be rejected. So just understand that that can be all worked out and submitted with the application as well with the resolution. Okay, next slide. All right, so in the section where it lists passed and adopted. So this section must be filled in with all 4 vote count fields. If none, then you must indicate that with a 0 for that field. So again, a common mistake that we see in resolutions is this section is not filled out or it is left blank. Okay, and so we advise that not be the case. Okay, so everything must be filled out. If there's nothing, please enter a 0. Just please make sure if there's a line there that requires some sort of entry, please fill it out. Don't just leave it blank. Okay, so if anything is left blank, again, that will just cause for more back and forth with review, and there may be you may have to do an amended resolution if that's the case. And again, we don't want to have to go down that road if we don't have to. Okay, so the number of ayes, noes, abstentions, and absent must be consistent with your current board composition. So the number of board members, and they must meet the quorum requirements identified by your agency bylaws. Okay, so again, just make sure that this ending part of the resolution is completed in full. That is highly encouraged. Next slide. All right, the next 2 slides will cover the attestation section of the resolution. So for this section, the attesting officer cannot be the person identified in the resolution as the authorized signer. And believe me, we have seen resolutions come through where that is the case. And so please be aware that that is not allowed. So the attesting officer is usually the clerk of the board or the agency secretary. So again, the attesting officer cannot be the person that is listed as the authorized signer. So please make sure that that does not happen or the resolution will be deemed invalid. Okay, next slide. All right, so this slide is just another continuation of the attestation section of the resolution. So please make sure that you insert the correct name and the title of the signer, the date of the attestation, and the appropriate signature of the attesting officer. So again, all of us here know this process and we've done it before. So just as a reminder, this all is still required to be done correctly. So and that is kind of the end of the resolution templates. And a lot of these were just, I know for most of us here, this is just a reminder of stuff that we've already done in the past. But there's some new stuff that's going to be happening this year. So this is super important to just be aware of what's going to be required with the application. And again, any questions about this, maybe some of us here are new to this process, and that we're here to help. Okay, so if anything, if there's questions after this webinar, we're happy to help. You can email the ESG NOFA inbox. You can contact your direct ESG rep if you have questions about this. We're here to help. It's definitely early on in the process. Applications are not due yet, and so we definitely want to answer the questions now if we can, so you can start that process to get that resolution drafted and ready. So that wraps up the presentation here. So I will send it back to Anthony. And if there's any questions in the Q&A, we will look at those now.
Thank you, Tim. That was very helpful. And I am going to turn it over to Amanda, as I know we have a few questions. So
yes,
take it away, Amanda.
There's quite a few questions, so I'm going to start with the ones in the chat because I'm afraid they're going to disappear as people keep typing. So there's a lot of questions regarding dates. So the first question, which Chelsea has already answered, but I'm going to say it, should the date be 12/31/2024? And the answer is yes. Please do not put 12/26/2024. We realize that was on one copy, but that has since been removed, and the date should be December 31st, 2024. If you have the December 26th date, our legal department will not accept it. So please make sure you put December 31st, 2024. The next question is, should HCD input or provide the 150% and the 25% amounts for the grantees so that it's from HCD and prevents any questions or discrepancies that could occur? And the answer to that would be no, we are not inputting anything on the resolutions. That would be up to you. The 150% is on Appendix A. That's all outlined for you. So, yeah,
And yeah,
go
to
ahead,
build on
Anthony.
that, it's a general guideline.
Yes.
We're moving to 3-year contracts this year.
Yes.
We're moving multi-year contracts. And we just want to have a general number for you to work with. And we want to ensure that it's identified, but it's an estimate. There's no guarantee that we'll get the dollars each year from congressional appropriation or HUD, that the state of California will receive them. But
Anthony, can I chime in?
yes, please.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. This is Felicity. So I just wanted to say that if the appetite, it depends on what the appetite is of your local government or your governing body for your COC, is to approve authorization for additional amounts. So if you feel more comfortable and your governing body feels more comfortable authorizing a higher amount, there's no prohibition on our end of a higher amount being authorized, but it's just it's something that is determined locally. We're just encouraging those amounts at a minimum. But if you have authority locally and a risk tolerance, there's not, I mean, I don't know what the risk is involved, but if a tolerance by your local government to authorize you to be able to administer additional money beyond what your initial award is, then by all means do the highest amount that you're authorized for to avoid having to go back and do a new resolution. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Felicity.
Okay, so the next question. For the 3-year, I'm assuming the year still be 2024 to 2025 or 3-year 2024 to 2027?
Amanda, this is Tim. Yeah, so great question. So if it's the 3-year, they will list 2024 to 2027 for the 3-year.
Thank you, Tim. And for the folks out there, these instructions are included in the templates. If you look at the 3-year template, it will be listed above at the top, identifying the funding years. So thank you.
Okay. So the next question, how do we know who is the designee for the county and what is written proof of a designation for a county resolution? County executive always signed in the past. So you don't have to have a designee. That's only up to your county or organization if you want a designee. So if your county executive is okay signing all of the documents, then you would not need a designee letter. Next question, for section 7, since there is no template, what does it mean to include written proof of a designee's authority? And that would go back to the designee letter, is what I'm assuming. Tim or Anthony,
Can you repeat the question real quick?
for section 7, since there's no template, what does it mean to include written proof of a designee's authority? It would be the designee letter.
Yeah, it goes back to, it's a good question. It goes back to what just Amanda had answered in the previous section.
Yeah.
If your jurisdiction or your agency requires a designee to sign off, and just for illustrative purposes, your county executive officer doesn't want to sign every little RFF that goes for the ESG program. So he designates the planning director as his or her designee. That's all it means. And then you would submit a letter. If that is the case, you would submit a letter on your agency letterhead stating that this will be the designee, signed by your authorized, or identifying your authorized representative. And I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. Can you please explain again the difference between 150% of the amount and 25% of the amount in the resolution sections? Tim would, or
Yeah.
Tim, would you like to do that again?
Yeah. Gio, do you want to go back to that slide? Let's see. I forget which slide it was. Anthony, do you remember? I think
I'm
it was
looking right now.
Yeah.
Slide starts at 21 and then goes to 22. The 150% is 21 and the other is 22.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Amanda, could you repeat the
Oh.
question one more time? Yeah.
Yes. Can you please explain again the difference between 150% of the amount and 25% of the amount in the resolution sections?
Oh, perfect. Oh, yeah. So, so in this section, so the section 1, so again, these allocation amounts are in the NOFA in Appendix A at the end. So section 1 is going to be for the main amount of for the award. Now, so that's why it's at a higher percentage. And so now section 2, if you can advance the slide to section 2. And so the section 2, thank you, it's listed, this is for any additional. So if there's any ESG funds that remain available for allocation after the deadline, and so that's why they're a little separate. And so, so make sure that the first one is based upon what's in the Appendix A, and then section 2 is if there's any additional available. That's why it's at the 25% there.
Okay, thank you, Tim. So the next question, our clerk uses a stamp that says none in place of 0. Is this acceptable? Yes, that would be acceptable. As long as there's something that says 0, none, NA, not NA, I'm sorry, 0 or none, something that says something like that, that is acceptable. It just cannot be blank. Next question, can we get a copy of all attendees for this office hours? I do not know if we are allowed to send that out. Felicity, that would be a question for you.
I'm not 100% certain. I think it'd be good to know what the reason for the request is.
Okay.
But we can, yeah, we can
Why?
bring that, we can, if you want to submit the request to the ESG inbox, we can see if we can get that to you.
Yeah.
But we need to talk about it internally more.
Oh, there was a follow-up. They would like it for collaboration. That was the answer, Felicity.
Okay. We'll find out if there's any like privacy concerns and let you know, and send, if not, we can send it out. But we will circle up internally and let you know. Thanks.
Next question, shouldn't the amount for receive an ESG grant and an amount not to exceed be the 150% in section 1 plus the 25% in section 2?
I understand. I understand the question and I can understand the perspective, but they're talking about two separate things. The 150% is referring to the amounts identified in the 2024 NOFA in Appendix A. That is the funding available for this NOFA. However, oftentimes additional monies are available through the ESG program. And that is what the 25% refers to. So after everything is said and done, and you've done your 150%, you've submitted everything, you may get an email 3 or 4 months from now saying additional dollars have been identified for the ESG program. That is where this comes into play. It's not guaranteed, but it is oftentimes the case.
Okay. So we have a couple more comments.
We've got about 5 minutes left.
My 3-year template doesn't have the edits required, adding the years to section 3. Applicant hereby affirms that the ESG program funds and allocation amounts published under the NOFA represent 3 consecutive annual funding cycles. The second and third annual funding cycles are estimated amounts only, and actual amounts, if any, are contingent upon the department receiving an annual grant agreement from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
And if you have the 3-year reso open in front of you, you can scroll up to the top. And in the title of the resolution, it'll identify the funding years for you.
Okay. I think if we're just copying the amounts on Appendix A, we're fine. I misunderstood and thought it was stated that we were to take 150% and 25% of those amounts and input those amounts. Okay. And then, oh, yes. Chelsea, can you please unmute Lisa so she can speak?
My question about the
Oh.
section 3, can you hear me?
Yes.
My section about the section 3 is that the template does not have the blank underlining section where you want it to be inserted, the years to be inserted. My template and the one that I just confirmed is the exact same one online. It does not in any way allow me to enter the years that you want entered. And so am I supposed to figure that out myself, or is there an error in the template in this section, or what's going on?
Thank you, Lisa. I think perhaps I'll double check the slides, but I think perhaps it's referring to section 2. If you look at section 2 at the bottom, just before the instructions for section 3. Are you tracking?
I still don't see any instructions for section 3. My section 3 does
Yeah.
not.
We're talking about the not to exceed amount, correct? If I understand.
No, we're talking about entering the NOFA years or the program years of 24 to 27. So the 1 year template allows you to enter the 1 year of 24 to 25 in section 3, but the 3-year template does not have any way for you to edit it and any area for you to pop it in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I see it.
And no instructions after that section.
Yeah, there are slight differences, and thank you for calling that out. We can address that directly with you.
Okay, because
Afterwards.
I've already sent this to my county council for
Yeah.
approval, and yeah, I would need the exact language of what's going to go in there as soon as possible. And maybe I could follow up via email, but
Yeah, we will. I definitely. I don't want to confuse the audience, but there are slight differences there, and it's going to be applicable to the 3-year. We were speaking more generally of the 1-year earlier, so you and I can
well,
follow up on that.
okay, yeah, I thought I heard you say it was applicable to the 1 and to the 3, but if what I popped into the question and answer section for the 3-year template is correct, then I don't need to follow up with you. I just need to know
Yeah,
that
you've
what I
you've
popped
already
in
picked it
there
up.
is
You've already
okay.
picked it up.
Great,
So-
thank you.
So for clarity, you don't need to fill anything in on the 3-year. You do need to fill in dates for the 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Great, thank you.
what Tim was saying, but there wasn't clarity about not needing to do that for the 3-year. And so that was a really good thing to bring up.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. And Amanda, anything left? It's 11 o'clock.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, nothing left, so we can cut it
Well,
off here.
fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. These next few slides are just going to be links to our program pages and our social media. And our last slide is always our little recruitment pitch to you. If you're interested in joining our team and joining us on our mission for California, we would love to hear from you. Don't forget that next week is the HCD 2024 NOFA webinar. We're going to go into great detail on that with a lot of good questions, followed up by regular office hours in 2 weeks on indirect costs. Thank you all so much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you soon.